Hi there, this is Dr. Embody, and I'd like to show you how you could use list comprehensions to finish up the end of lab 6. So, taking a look at this, what many of you had as a data structure looked something like this. You created a list of lists, so that would be the first list in there with a comma at the end, right? And then we see a list at the end, and you can see how it highlights to match up with the one at the beginning. Right? So there's our list to start with. And many of you had when I went around the labs, you'd have something like this. You would have included the mean for a particular person, and then the task was, all right, I needed to now get a mean for a column, right? So that's take the 100, the 82, the 94, and so on. So how do I extract a column out of there? And in this case, the data structure is named the roster. So let's take a look at that. So one thing we can do here is say for my list in the roster, let's just print the list. And that prints each of the lists. You notice here that originally when I displayed it, I had a list of lists, and now I'm printing the lists one at a time. Now, where are these values? Well, this is item 1 in the list. So using my up arrow, I can move to what I had before. And so there are all the item 1s, and we can see I have in fact captured that column. Now, because I'm printing strings here, it might be nice, at some point it'd be nice to have those as ints. They'll print the same, but we in fact know that those are ints. So one of the things to do once you have lists is you can say, well, let me make a list of that column, and then I can do something with it. So I'll call that my ex1, and we'll give it we'll start it as an empty list, and the pattern is starting with an empty list and then appending. So let's go back to this loop that I had, and instead of printing, I'm going to just append that information to this ex1 list. And what does ex1 look like? Well, now it has those values in it. Those values being the column that of my data structure. Now, what's cool about the fact that I have a list of numbers is that I can now, there is a sum function, calculates the sum, and then there's also one length, just like we have with strings, which will tell me how long it is. That's how many people I had in there. So of course the average is the sum over how many there were. And I create an average that way. Okay, so there I've created a list. How about an easier way to create that list? And I can do that with list comprehension. So I can make my my ex1 list, and list comprehension starts with a square bracket, so that will be a list. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this information that I had up here, okay, and I'm going to put the 4 in here. Basically, take that part, that component there, and close it off with a list. You can see that with the green shading there, those match up. And what's my ex1? Well, it is a list of integers out of there. So in this way, I can now create that ex1, and then from that, I can create the average. So this is the list comprehension to take this two-dimensional piece of information, extract out that column, and make it into a list. we can extend that further, and let's make a list of averages. Now that I got one, right? So what am I going to do here? I am going to work on this was for column 1. We want to do the same thing for column 2, column 3, column 4. So let's go for I in the range of 1 to 5. That will get me the 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, up to, but not including 5. And what I want to do is I want to get an exam, and it's not just EX1, and so we'll take my list comprehension and I'll put it down here, and instead of having a 1 here, we'll put an I. So I'll do it for each I, and then I can compute an average, which is the sum of my EX over the length of EX, just like I had before. And now what I will do is I will take this averages, that is this list that I started here, and I can append an average onto that. And when I look at the averages, I in fact have all the averages of each column, and that's what I wanted. Now I'm done. It would be possible, but pretty messy. I could actually build this whole thing into a list comprehension, but at that point it might be a little hard to read. So there you go, list comprehensions. By the way, these names that we have here are famous people. If you have a moment, I really encourage you. Grace Hopper is a famous woman who is known in the field of computer science for creating the first programming language, COBOL. She led that team. At the turn of the century, at least, there were more lines of COBOL running in the world than any other programming language. I'm not sure it's still the case, but there's still a lot of COBOL running even now. And she was also the first woman to become admiral in the U.S. Navy. Very impressive person. And what I encourage you to do is go to YouTube and search for Grace Hopper nanosecond. You get this whopping 2-minute video of her, and it'll give you a little bit of an appreciation for how impressive a person she was, why she managed to become the first female admiral. All right, there you go. Thanks.